Okay, good morning, everybody. We are live. This is coffee break number 7 of CertaPay's coffee break series, and that's number 7 of 2021. So today is April 1st. We're so glad you're here today, and we're going to be talking about the Cobra update that was part of the American Rescue Plan Act. So it's perfectly timed because today is the first day of the effective Cobra subsidy. So we will dig into that in just a bit. CertaPay is super happy to have you with us. I am your host, Rachel Camella, and I'm here with our moderator, Cindy Merkel. And there's actually a lot of people from the CertaPay team on the coffee break today. So welcome to all of those participants, and then welcome to all of you, our clients and potential clients, and anyone who just needs the information. So today I am drinking a delicious special from Honduras, which is wonderful. It has notes of apple and butterscotch and raisin, and I got it from Temple Coffee in California. Thanks, Temple. And Cindy, how about you?
As I said, I'm not drinking coffee today. I'm on a black iced tea kick.
I like it. And we have a lot of people on today with different types of coffee and tea. So I hope you enjoy while we give you some information. Let's get started. So today talking about Cobra. And as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, they added a Cobra subsidy. And it begins today, and it is basically free Cobra coverage for those assistance eligible individuals for the next 6 months. So April, May, June, July, August, and September. And like all things Cobra, there are a lot of nuances and some technical requirements. So that's where we thought we would be able to help you and go over some of these things and then answer some of your questions. If you have questions at the end, put them in that chat box and we will get to all of them. Cindy's keeping a close eye. Everybody good? All right. So who needs to provide this coverage? It's anybody who is obligated to follow the federal Cobra requirements. So if you're an employer who has a health plan and you're subject to those federal Cobra requirements, then you would be obligated to provide this Cobra subsidy for employees who qualify. In addition, it's not just those who follow the federal guidelines, but there are some states that have continuation law programs. So make sure you know what your state's laws are with regards to continuation programs. So if you offer a health plan and you're subject to offer Cobra to your employees, then this would apply to you. And Cobra applies for the most part for employers with 20 or more in a health plan. So that's what we're talking about. And then, as you heard me mention earlier, the assistance eligible individual. So what makes somebody an assistance eligible individual in AEI? Well, it was an employee who was on your plan at termination. So let's just go back over that. If somebody was terminated and they did not elect health coverage while they were employed, and then at the point when they were terminated, they were not on your plan, they are not eligible to then get Cobra. They had to have been on your plan when they were terminated. So that's the first piece of it. Next is the employee lost their coverage due to being involuntarily terminated, or you reduced their hours, which caused them to lose coverage. So it could have been a layoff. It could have been, it's just not working. We're parting ways. We need to reduce hours. Whatever it is, with those people that were involuntarily terminated and then were eligible to elect Cobra when they left. So we're not talking about gross misconduct. Somebody who really had some egregious behavior, they threw a brick through your window and took off, that person's not eligible. We may see some additional guidance on this, but it specifically uses the term not including gross misconduct. So, somebody who just didn't do the job very well, they're going to qualify. So if they were on your plan and would have been able to elect Cobra, that person would be considered an assistance eligible individual.
Rachel,
and then in addition, yeah.
Every state unemployment has a definition in your state or our state for gross misconduct. So I would suggest that you go to the unemployment and read what your state defines as gross misconduct. Somebody wrote in absenteeism, just blew their job off. Honestly, yes, that would be something that we would consider gross misconduct, but however, in the state of Florida, that does not constitute gross misconduct. So just because you were absent and didn't show up for your job here and there, you would still qualify.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Thanks, Cindy, and thanks for the question that came in from Karen. It's not like it just didn't work out or they didn't do a good job. That's not gross misconduct. What we're talking about here, it's like Cindy said, go check the unemployment definition and they're gonna line up pretty well. It's really got to be some bad behavior that had a serious impact on your business. So again, just kind of the general, it didn't work out kind of excuse, that is going to be an individual who would be considered assistance eligible. And so to continue on, also any participants who are on your plan. So at the time, if you had qualifying plan participants, the spouse, children, other people on the plan, those would also be assistance eligible individuals. And the importance to the word individual is you may need to notify additional people, not just the employee. We'll get to that in just a bit. So now we know what business is and we know who. Let's dig in a little bit more to that who. Now, the window of time is any time while Cobra would still be considered effective or in that eligible window. So Cobra is typically an 18-month coverage period. And the way it typically works in the beginning is you elect it or you don't. If you don't elect it, then you can't go back and add it in months after the fact. However, in this plan, you can. So even if somebody is still within that 18-month window period, they would be eligible for any of those remaining months in that 18-month window. There are a few additional circumstances where Cobra eligibility is extended to 29 months or even 36 months, and they have to do with very specific qualifying events that occur during certain windows of time. And if there's a death with the employee, then the dependents. I don't really have those details in this presentation today, but if you have one of those rare cases, please reach out to us and we'll help go through that with you and go through those months of eligibility and see where we are on that. But they're not super common. Typically, we're talking about an 18-month coverage window. So like I said, even if somebody did not elect the original Cobra, then they can still be eligible for this Cobra subsidy. So it's that entire 18-month window that's going to be important. And this also includes people who may have elected Cobra, but then discontinued for either non-payment or let you know they were going to discontinue, whatever it is. If they elected Cobra and then discontinued it, but they still have time left in that 18-month window, then they would be considered an assistance eligible individual. And so finally, as soon as the person becomes eligible for another plan from an employer or Medicare, then they're no longer eligible for this subsidy. And same thing, if that 18-month coverage window ends, then they are no longer eligible for this subsidy. How we doing?
Good. I just want to clear something up while we're there. The question is, if a new employee wanted coverage, but they were released before the eligibility date, do they qualify? No, they have to have already been on your plan. If they were never on your insurance at all, they can't claim it now, so to speak.
That's right. So just like she said, you had to have been on the health plan at the time of termination. So somebody who hasn't gotten out of the probationary period or the 30-day window or the 60-day window, if they have not actually elected coverage while employed and been on your plan while employed, then this does not apply. They have to have been on your plan when they were terminated and therefore eligible to elect Cobra. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know that you can't elect Cobra, one of your employees can't elect Cobra if they weren't on your plan to begin with. And that's the same. It's a good question to help us bring that point home. So let's kind of go over it. And I do see a couple questions in the chat that we're going to be getting to, so hang tight just a bit. So a couple of examples. This will help with some of the questions. Let's say you have an employee, you had to lay off 10 employees back in April of 2020. And 6 of them were on your benefits plans. So therefore, those 6 employees and any dependents that they had on their plans would now be eligible for the Cobra subsidy. May 1st. Okay, so they were laid off in April, and that means they would have been eligible for your Cobra plan starting May 1st. And that means their 18-month window is May 1st, 2020 to October 31st, 2021. And that means they could be eligible for the Cobra subsidy for each of those 6 months starting today. So April, May, June, July, August, and September, they would be eligible for that free Cobra subsidy. And so somebody asked about that 18-month window, and yes, we need to go back all the way, and we'll talk about that some more. Let's take a look at another example. So you terminated an employee in October of 2019. So that means that person would be eligible for Cobra effective November 1st. And again, that was in 2019, but the 18-month Cobra window goes all the way from that November 1st, 2019, all the way through the end of this month, the end of April. This would be their 18 months. That means that would be an assistance eligible individual only for 1 month, for this month. Let's do one more example. You terminated an employee in June of 2020. She was eligible to elect Cobra coverage on July 1st. She terminated her Cobra in February due to lack of payment. And so she would actually be an assistance eligible employee for the entire 6-month window, even though she terminated in February, because she's still within her 18-month window. So let's kind of go over the plan. What do you do?
On my messages.
Yeah, okay. Well, I printed it.
Can you all please
Got 'em.
mute yourself?
I got them.
Thank you.
Okay, so we recommend that you reach out to your plan administrator, your broker. They are going to be aware of these things already. They will be ready to help you, but definitely reach out to them. Make sure they have a plan and make sure you work with them on how to figure that out. And the reason you don't want to just leave it solely up to them is because some of those things we already talked about. You want to take a look at some of the different pieces that are involved. And so you could go all the way back to the terminations, going from now backwards to that October 2019 window, and make a list of any eligible employees. So these would be people who were terminated without gross misconduct, any kind of involuntary termination, you reduced their hours, whatever it is, and they would have been eligible for Cobra. So they would have been on your plan, and there would have been a termination or reduced hours. And so make that list. That will be a good starting point if you create a list of all the people in the first place that would have been assistance eligible individuals. And you want to include, you need to take a look at your plan and people who would have been on your plan at the point of termination. So you may have spouses on the plan or children on the plan or all of the above. So those other individuals will also be considered assistance eligible. So make a full list of anybody at the time of separation who was actually on your plan. And then take a look, kind of cross-reference reasons for separation. Was there any major issue or gross misconduct that would eliminate somebody from eligibility? Just kind of cross-reference that. And when I say reach out to your broker or administrator, you know, they're going to have a list of people who are on the plan at termination, but they aren't necessarily always going to know why people were terminated. So that's where the communication will be important. So cross-reference that and communicate with your broker or these plan administrators so they can help you through that piece of it. There are people who will be eligible for that. You know, they might have varying places of 18 months remaining. And if somebody is approaching the end of their 18-month window, then they're only eligible for what's left. So if somebody only has they've got months 16, 17, and 18 left in their eligibility window, then they're only eligible for the subsidy for 3 months. So take a look at the timeline there. So yeah, just like I said, if the eligibility ends, then they're no longer eligible for that. All right. So what do you need to do now that you've got the information and you've got your list created? It is important to notify these people. And we were waiting for the DOL to issue a model letter, but we haven't seen one yet. We will keep you all posted if we do see one, and you can keep your eyes out on the DOL site. There isn't one available yet. So we need to notify these people and anyone who's eligible, including the dependents. You can modify your current Cobra notification. Again, your broker, your plan administrator, they're going to have typical notification letters. So we can just change some of the language in that so that it notifies all of these individuals that they are eligible for this special Cobra subsidy, and just change the language on your normal notices. And that we've got to get these notices out right away. So starting now, today is the first day of the subsidy. So hopefully you've got something ready to go, or maybe you've already sent it out, or you're prepared to take some action in the next couple of days. Your eligible individuals will have 60 days to elect this participation, but it's 60 days from receipt of your notice letter. So if they didn't get it today, then you have to start that 60-day timer from the date they received their letter. And then they can go back and elect, say, yes, I need to be added. I'd like to elect the Cobra. So you may have people who you haven't talked to in a year. They may call you and say, yes, please, I would like to take advantage of this subsidy. So you will have to get them added to your plan, figure out the billing process, make sure they get notifications, whatever it is. And then you have the second notice that's required is about termination. So you're either going to notify people at the end of the subsidy period, meaning that September end of subsidy date, or you're going to notify them at the end of their assistance eligibility. So if somebody, let's say in our example, they have 3 months of this subsidy available because it's the months 16, 17, and 18 of their Cobra window, then they would need to receive a notice for before the end of June that lets them know their subsidy period will be ending at the end of June. And so these notices have to go out between 45 and 15 days prior to the expiration of the coverage. So there may be people that you have to send both an eligibility letter and a coverage end letter now. That's why it's important to kind of go over your list of people who are eligible along with a timeline that makes sense of when their eligibility is. And then you can send the appropriate notices for both categories. How we doing?
Rachel, what's the time frame that these people need to be notified? I thought I read 30 days from now.
It's a 60-day window, so we want to get the notifications out right away, and then they've got 60 days from the receipt of the notice.
Right, but how long, if I'm the benefit, how long do I have to get your notice to you that you may be eligible or that you are eligible? I know you have 60 days to apply to me, but how long on the front side do I have to communicate with you?
So it's a little bit of a gray area. There is talk of a 30-day window in that, but there's no, we don't know of penalties or issues for not doing it. This is, you know, in the COVID world, we've got these nuances and technicalities to work with. And they really stress that an individual has that 60-day window from when they receive it. So if you don't send out the notice, and then they would still be eligible. You would have to make sure you get them the notice. So if it doesn't occur within 30 days and they get it after that, they now have 60 days to choose. So now you're looking at going back how many months to get somebody effective on your plan. It's just the timeline is really kind of tricky because we don't have all of the information on that. And we do expect to get some more guidance and information that I think will tighten up some of those timelines and tell us, you've got X amount of time to get this notification out. They're basically saying it needs to go out now, and then people have 60 days to choose. So the sooner the better. If you've got people eligible, let's get these notices out right away. I would not delay.
And what's going to make muddy the water even more, if you wait 15, 20 days to get the letter out, then they've got 60. Now they've had 75 days of medical bills that they've probably paid out of their pocket that the carrier is now going to have to go back to and reimburse, and it's just going to be an absolute nightmare in the medical field.
Yeah. Yep. There are a lot of layers here. So time is important. So if you've got eligible people, let's get these letters out quickly. All right. So how does this get paid? Well, it gets paid with, again, we expect more guidance, but it's listed as coming from the Medicare payroll taxes due. So again, another line item on that 941. You know, you've got your FFCRA credits, you've got your employee retention credits, you've got now the Cobra subsidy credits. So these are all going to come off of those payroll taxes due on your 941 with an offset line. And if you, and they list it as coming just from Medicare payroll taxes, but I expect to see kind of some additional guidance, maybe some changes on that too. So they're similar to the others. And then if you are due more credits than the taxes that you owe, which is entirely possible with all of these credits we've got right now, then you will get that refund of those dollars back to you. You can also do the Form 7200 if you kind of have an idea of who's on your plan and how much it's going to cost. So you can do that ahead of time on the Form 7200 and get those credit dollars ahead of time. So a couple of practical thoughts that we just thought would be important to just think about with some of these things. Again, when we talk about the technicalities and the nuance, we've got so many things to consider. So oftentimes people do a severance package with a lump sum to kind of cover the Cobra payments for X amount of time. So if you know you've got somebody who you would normally offer a severance package to coming up who's going to be eligible in this subsidy window, then think about offsetting those dollars so that you don't pay it twice. If you rely on a Cobra administrator, like I said, be sure and communicate with them. Confirm that list of assistance eligible individuals and all dependents, anyone who would be considered an AEI. And cross that with the timeline and make sure that you've got matching information in communication with the brokers and administrators. And you also might need to get some reporting from them. If you're paying these on the front side and you need to be able to claim the credits, they may need to provide you with some reports about that information. So communicate there and make sure you have the correct information. In 2019, we saw a 9-month Cobra subsidy, and they ended up extending it to a 15-month window. So I would say just keep that in the back of your mind. Be prepared for an extension. This being 6 months, I could see perhaps another 6-month window occurring. We don't know that. There's going to be more information, but I would just say keep that in the back of your mind. You've already got the lists and the information prepared, so be prepared to extend that, or keep those notices handy and be ready to notify people. And finally, also keep in mind that if you do have people who elect this coverage, you're going to have more people on your plan, potentially more claims on your plan, and this will affect your renewal. And so just another thing to kind of keep in mind there as we move through this. Again, we know there's going to be more guidance coming. And as we see more information, we will keep you updated and keep you up to speed, especially those model template letters about notification and end date notification. We'll keep an eye out for those coming from the DOL and get you guys copies of them as soon as we see them. So some final thoughts before we go to questions. This is a Cobra subsidy. It's not optional. So if you are required to provide Cobra to people who are on your plan when they terminated, then this does apply to you. It's not something that you can just choose to avoid or to skip. This is a mandatory subsidy. Be proactive. Start with that list. Go back in the timeline and create that assistance eligible individual list with the dates, and be ready to take action on that and get help if you need it. You've got us, you've got your broker, you've got your administrator, you've got a lot of people out there, and CertaPay is here for you guys every step of the way. If you need help with anything, please let us know.
Okay.
All right. I'm ready. What do we have? Is everybody good?
So far, we've got quite a few questions, good questions as well. Well, they're all good questions.
All right.
So, the first is more of a comment about if an employee leaves and takes another job, they would not qualify. They would only not qualify if they're currently on that employer's insurance. If they went to another job and didn't elect coverage with that employer, but was on your plan, yes, they do qualify.
Yeah, so let me just say that again. Let's say you terminated somebody last summer in 2020, so you know they're within the 18-month window of being on your plan, and they took another job, and then they never took the insurance at that job, and then they got terminated from that job. They will be eligible for Cobra on your plan. And same thing, I mean, if they had another job where they elected insurance and then they got terminated, they will actually be eligible for the Cobra subsidy on each plan. Now, they can only select one of them, but they would be eligible on each one. So again, this is something we may see some guidance on, and some of this information you may not know. I mean, if you terminated somebody a year ago, you don't necessarily know if they have a job or not. But if they would be eligible based on being terminated and having the Cobra option, then they need to get that notice. Now, they would not be eligible if they are on another plan. They've got another job and they have eligibility on another plan, then they would not be eligible for this.
Okay, the next question, Rachel, is the Cobra coverage just for medical? What about a dental and or vision plan?
It's for all plans for which they would be eligible when they leave. So if somebody is on your health plan, your dental plan, and your vision plan at the point of termination, and those are the Cobra eligible plans, then it's all of them.
Next question, does the 18-month window start going back from today?
No, the 18-month window is based on when the individual was terminated. So it's going to be different for every single person who was terminated. The 18-month window starts at the termination date or the eligibility of Cobra. So if your Cobra eligibility is the exact date of termination, then it's 18 months from then. If your Cobra eligibility is the first of the month following termination, which most plans are like that, then it's 18 months from then. Like our November example. So if somebody was terminated in October of 2019 and their Cobra eligibility was November 1st, that individual's 18-month window starts November 1st of 2019 and ends in the last day of April this month. So the eligibility, that 18 months starts from the termination date and the eligibility of Cobra.
We're talking, can we just reiterate the 18th month window that I have to go back and find out for termed employees?
I would go back to October of 2019 and make a list. Yeah, start in October of 2019.
Perfect. Okay. The next question is this for prior Cobra only or for those terminating in April, May, and going forward? That's a really good question. So if they get terminated tomorrow and they're eligible for Cobra either tomorrow or May 1st, whichever their plan is, would they be still, do they get the subsidized Cobra versus having to pay it out of pocket themselves?
Yes, they do. So anyone who is terminated today and is eligible for Cobra, you know, if their coverage doesn't end until the end of the month, then maybe they wouldn't be eligible until May 1st. But yes, anybody whose 18-month Cobra eligibility window occurs during this 6-month window of subsidy, they would be considered an assistance eligible individual.
I did have somebody tell me that the model notices and some other information from the DOL and the IRS are supposed to come out on the 10th of this month. So we just got to wait a couple more weeks and there should be some more information. So I did want you all to keep that date in mind. The next
right,
question,
and it's been a moving date. It was the 1st and then it was the 10th and we'll see. And again, they have made it clear it's okay to create a notice as long as it has the correct information, and you can even alter the current Cobra eligibility notice to talk about the subsidy. So if you would rather get your notices out right away, then just make sure you put the information in there about being eligible.
the next question, if their dependent was not covered while they were employed, can they elect coverage for the dependent still?
No, they had to have been on the plan at termination.
So if someone was not on your plan, they're not eligible to jump on it now. They had to have previously been on your plan. Okay, next question. If we get these notices out and wait the 60 days and do not hear back from the employee, are we responsible for the following up, or are we to assume they are not interested if there's no response?
I would assume they are not interested if there's no response, provided you've got the most current and up-to-date mailing information and contact information. And if they don't elect it in that 60-day window, then they don't have the option to go back and elect it after the fact.
If possible, I mean, I know you don't want to send certified letters to everyone for proof of receipt and sent, but, you know, it might behoove you to go to the post office, because when they do it, it'll have a timestamp on it, and then you'll have a receipt from the post office. So just food for thought.
Right. And again, communicate with your brokers and administrators. They have plans in place for how they send out Cobra notification already. So it could be a simple conversation. They may already have signature required format in place. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just communicate with your brokers and come up with a game plan that makes the most sense, that protects you as a business owner.
Next question. We have, does the subsidy apply to qualified term employees going forward through 9/30 of 21?
Yes, so we just covered that. So yes, any time that somebody's Cobra eligibility will overlap with this subsidy window, then they would be considered an assistance eligible individual.
Next question. We have rehired most of the people we laid off in 2020. Are any of those people eligible for the subsidy?
So no, if they're current employees, then they're not eligible for Cobra. Cobra is only because the people are not working anymore. So if you've got people who are working, they would have had the option to get back on your medical plan. And if they declined to be on your medical plan, then they can't go elect Cobra because it wouldn't apply to them.
The next question, if someone quits, that would be voluntary and therefore they are not eligible. That's correct.
Right. That's right. So if somebody resigns or somebody quit and left your organization, then they are not eligible for this Cobra subsidy. It's really only when it was an involuntary separation.
This is
or reduced hours.
Question, but this is also a good question. If an individual gets laid off and they're offered a recall, but they refuse to come back, are they eligible?
If they're laid off and you call them back and then they decline, that's a very specific example, and they would technically still be in that Cobra window. So I could kind of see that one both ways. We might look for some additional guidance on that kind of a detailed example, but my initial thought is that they would be within their 18-month Cobra window and therefore be an assistance eligible individual.
I'm going to stay with that topic for a second. Employees who were rehired are not eligible for 1 year to get back on the insurance. So would they be eligible? But would they be eligible? No, because they're employees. You have to be unemployed.
Okay, so there's a couple of issues there. We are not currently in, we don't have any waiting periods that long, according to normal ACA guidelines. So if you have a waiting period that's 12 months long to get on the benefit plan, then there may be some issues there you want to address that are separate from this. So I would reach out to your broker or plan administrator on that and maybe think about changing the waiting period for rehires for your healthcare plans.
Just a clarification, if the employee took another job, they have to be on the new employer's insurance to not be eligible. If I leave your job and if you let me go and I get another job and I'm not on my current employer's insurance, I'm still eligible for the Cobra under you.
That's right. And so let's do some quick examples there. So if somebody, let's say somebody is laid off or terminated from your organization and they would have been eligible for Cobra, but they didn't take it. Now they've got a new job and they're in their open enrollment period, or they're in their eligibility period where they are eligible to elect coverage at their new employer. They wouldn't be eligible for this Cobra subsidy because they are eligible for another health plan at another organization. Now let's take that same example and switch it a bit. So you laid off the employee left, they went to another organization, they waited the waiting period and did not elect coverage, and now they are no longer eligible to elect the coverage from that employer. And now the Cobra subsidy window is opened up. They are eligible. So it's the same employee and a different timeline. So they didn't elect coverage at their new employer, so they are not eligible to, but they are eligible under your plan because they're still within the 18-month window. Did I just make it more confusing?
Maybe. That's okay. The employee was laid off and recalled in 2021. They are in their look back period, so they are not eligible. Are they eligible for the Cobra subsidy? So they're not eligible for the regular, for lack of better terms, regular insurance. Would they be eligible for the Cobra subsidy? Does that make sense, Rachel? It's from Karen. It's the last question if you want to read it. So.
Okay, let's see. If an employee was recalled, so the thing that has me a little bit confused about the question is if somebody's working for you, they're employed, they're not eligible for this. So these are only people who are no longer working for you and are eligible for your Cobra plan. So if somebody was laid off in 2020 and you called them back in 2021, now they're working for you, they're not eligible for this Cobra. They're back as an employee and would soon be eligible to elect coverage under your plan. So if they're working for you, they're not eligible for this.
So since they're working for you and they're not eligible, Rachel, why are they eligible if they're working for somebody else?
Well, so because they would be eligible under this current employer, they would be eligible to join their plan. And if for some reason they are not eligible to join their plan, then in that case, yes, they would be eligible for the Cobra from their previous layoff.
I just want to make
So
sure
this
that
is it's a very tricky one.
I think we've answered all. Oh, here's one good question. Should we ask them to sign an acknowledgement and mail back saying they're waiving the option?
We haven't seen that as a requirement. We haven't even seen that as a recommendation from the DOL, but we're going to keep our eyes out and look for some additional guidance. Again, this is new to a lot of us, and we've seen some kind of different documents come through as some recommendations, but really with Cobra, as think about the way the Cobra notice is anyway. You don't have to acknowledge that you received it. You don't have to acknowledge that you're declining it. You just don't respond. It's similar to that. So without, there's nothing required to do that, and that would maybe create some extra work that I know you guys are pretty busy right now as it is. So again, we can look for some more guidance on that, but there isn't, it would be your choice.
Another question, Rachel, and then I have a question. If the employee signs up for Medicare, can they elect dental coverage with the Cobra? So
only if they had it originally. If they were eligible to elect the dental and the vision or whatever plans, if they were eligible to elect those under the Cobra continuation, then they would be. But if they did not have that coverage while they were employed, then they would not be eligible to add it now.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. If you have just one piece of the pie, you can't go get the whole pie now. Okay.
Right.
I'm hungry.
All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all of you, and we hope that we help you with these coffee breaks. Stay tuned. We will keep you up on any new information that comes out. And if you want to stick around and ask some more questions, I will stay on here for a bit, so no worries there. But thanks again. CertaPay appreciates and values you, and we look forward to working with you and seeing you on our coffee breaks. Have a great day.